Yeah,
You are
Kyle.
such a whore. You are such a whore.
I am a literary whore. I will spread my paragraphs for the first reader that comes along. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 514 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Terry Mixon. Joining me, Paul E. Cooley. How you doing, man?
What's up? Actually, I shouldn't do that anymore. It's old and tired. How are you? I'm doing fine, sir. How are you doing?
Pardon me, but do you have any Grey Poupon?
I can make some Grey Poupon.
I'm not sure I would like Grey Poupon.
All you got to do is like grab a seagull and tug them either side, and I'll make some Grey Poupon.
Yep. It didn't take long to get to that level.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what happens. It's Tuesday.
I go high, you go low. That's
yeah.
It works.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll switch later when we get in this episode. Anyway.
Totally true. What are you up to, man? What's going on in Paul's life?
Holy crap. What is going on? Gears Inferno is up for sale on Audible. Moving units. Happy about that. Let's see. What else am I doing? I'm putting up the Black Outbreak up on YouTube. Finally. I haven't put up a YouTube episode in probably 2 years, something like that. People have been waiting for this bullshit. So I'm putting up one episode of of Outbreak every day. And for the month of October. And then I'll probably start releasing Derelict, I think maybe next month or the month after. Because I'm stupid like that. So that's bringing in some folks. And I think it's already, from some of the emails I've gotten, it's already led to some audiobook sales. So on Outbreak, which is funny. So the doing that, and I'm still working on Evolution, moved into the oh shit, everybody's going to die moment of the book. So we're in that part of the book. So now we're sprinting. I'm ready for the end. It's not that far away. So
well, that's a good thing.
That's what I'm doing. And I started planning for NaNoWriMo.
Are you doing something for NaNoWriMo?
If I finish Evolution, then I'm clear to work on whatever the hell I want in the month of November.
I hope it'll be a project of love.
I have 2 books that I want to write. Both of them are, one of them is in the vein of Gears Inferno kind of thing. And the other is, oh God, I don't even know how to describe it. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I guess it'll be a horror story, suspense horror story. So
sounds good.
I'm looking forward to both of them. I think they're pretty short, 50, 60,000 words. So I think I can crank that out. And hell, if they're longer, even better. But that's my job. That's what I'm planning for next month. So this month is finish Evolution so I can go play in November. That's the plan.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
For me, November, the first week of it, I'm going to a convention, a writers convention in Las Vegas. So that'll impact me. So no Nano this time around, but I still hope to get, plenty more than 50,000 words during the month.
I would love it if I can get that on a consistent basis. I would be a very, very happy man. Very, very happy man.
So let's see what's going on with me. I'm in the middle of writing the next combined work with Glenn Stewart, and I have to wrap that up in the next couple of weeks. I'd prefer to wrap it up in the next week, but it's probably going to take a couple of days longer than that. So circumstances worked out that way. He got it to me late, and I need to get it back and get it into his hands before too much longer. I have a couple of scenes I've got to go back and add an ass ton of things that are happening before some of the things that I've already written. So that's always a challenge for me to get my linear mind back into doing something earlier in the story. But I've got it in mind. I've got everything figured out that I need to do for that. Short story wise, the most recent short story that I had come out in the Expanding Universe #4 anthology got a great review on J.R. Hanley and Chris Winder's podcast, Sci-Fi Shenanigans. And
Chris
so I'm
Winder.
Didn't I just say that?
Winder.
What did I say?
You did not.
What did I say? Winder?
Winder.
Oh, whatever.
Or maybe it's because I'm deaf and I heard that. Anyway, continue.
Whichever way it is. My apologies, Chris. At least I didn't call you Chris Wiener.
Oh, I thought that was understood. That's our pet name for him on the show.
Oh, that was a secret. I'm sorry. But anyway,
I can't even say we call him that in the pre-show because he's never heard it.
He's a patron, so he knows that.
He knows. He knows.
But JR and Chris, thank you very much for the kind words. And they also reviewed a couple of other stories in the anthology. So we should put the note in the link in the show notes because it was fun. People should listen to that. Should go listen to them doing their shenanigans. Just a couple of veterans doing sci-fi shenanigans.
Yep, I've been on their show, so
lots of fun.
I know the deal.
Other than that, that's it for me. But thinking about this, our intro kind of bogs down in the middle, and that's a good way for me to manhandle the subject around to the squishy middles.
That
swampy middles.
Gotta be one of the clumsiest segues I have ever witnessed on this show. And holy crap, have we done some clumsy ones. That one was a railroad spike and a sledgehammer.
I could have probably done that better. Maybe I should redo it in the rewrite.
There will be no rewrite on this intro. We don't, unlike books, we do not rewrite anything in our intro, unfortunately. We probably should.
Well, there's been a few times.
Well, yeah, you're right.
there's been a couple of times.
But yes, the swampy middle.
To be serious, what we're going to talk about this week is the start of a couple of different episodes, probably 3 episodes, talking about different sections of the books and how to write them, our pitfalls, and the things we think need to actually happen in them. And because we just can't begin to start at the beginning or end at the end, we're just going to go ahead and start in the middle. And honestly enough, I suspect we probably wandered into this episode. So, that makes total sense.
Enjoy the madness.
Enjoy the madness. So, Paul, we've been meaning to talk about swampy middles for a couple of episodes.
Yes, you keep derailing us.
And I keep derailing us. And I tried to today as well, but we managed to resist the temptation.
No, resist isn't the right word because you have now written it on another piece of paper that you've got stuck to your monitor for future topics.
Yeah, but I resisted the temptation to talk about it today. Yeah, so that's got to count for something.
Kind of covered some of it. Anyway, yes. And
Swampy Middle is a difficult place of the novel, or for that matter, a short story, for a lot of people. They're really strong when they start writing, and then suddenly the entire thing bogs down. Have you ever run into that?
Well, yes, multiple times. But
every book for me.
How do you define the swampy middle?
For me, it's when all the actions of the beginning of the novel have spread out the options that I can write about to the point to where now I'm having to think about where I want to go.
Okay. All right. Yes. I would say Tomb, the second book of the Derelict Saga, is a swampy middle.
You could say that probably about the Two Towers as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bridge book. I think bridge books have a tendency to be swampy middles, big time.
For you, what makes a swampy middle?
It is more or less like what you said. It's almost like I know at that point what needs to happen, but I've already told myself that part of the story to figure out what needs to happen. So now I don't want to write it.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
That's a problem, especially when you know like the next 7 scenes that have to happen. It's like, how can I make this interesting for me? I want to add new, and that's when I end up adding subplots all over the place because I'm bored.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
The story might not be boring because maybe I've done my job right, but it's one of those things where you're just like trudge. Yeah. We got to set this up. This piece of dialogue. It's like you feel as though you're like being controlled by a lethargic puppet master who just cannot figure out whether they're trying to direct a symphony or throw a baton at somebody.
Can't they do both?
They could. That's the problem. I think that it's often that point where, yeah, the introductions are over. You've figured out where you're going. You have set that up, usually with a, some kind of action or incident event. And then, yeah, it's people starting to move on the problem. Mysteries and thrillers handle this by throwing in a gunfight every now and then, or throwing in some crazy chase or massive discovery or something like that to keep the plot moving so that nobody gets bored. That's how it's done. With a thriller, you have to add some new element. With suspense, you have to let somebody have a piece of information and somebody else doesn't. Things like that you have to do to keep you interested as well as the reader.
When I was writing Scorched Earth, being a post-apocalyptic novel, I could always have another set of bad guys or another negative occurrence come down the pike and set them back.
Right. Yes. And I got called out by one of my avid patrons about a scene in Derelict that he thought was contrived. And I thought about it and went, you know what? When I was writing that, it was because I knew I had to do something to move this part of the story. So yes, he was right. That was contrived. There were better ways to do it, but I needed a reason for them to go outside at that point, and therefore that's what I used. And you have to do little stuff like that every now and then, because otherwise it would have been 7,000 or 8,000 words of uninterrupted stuff going on Mira, which would have been a problem. So I needed something else for people to do while that was going on. So I did this. But that's the swampy middle. There's the stuff you have to freaking do. And some of it is laborious, or at times feels laborious. And the fun stuff is the creation. It's not necessarily the drawing the rest of it out. The beginning is the sketch. The middle is that horrible inking part. And then the end is basically filling everything in with color.
For me, the beginning is where I take the characters and pick them back up from where I've left them at the end of the last novel, i.e. just gather them at a convenient place to start them towards the next crisis. I get everybody situated. I get everybody's threads started. I get what's going on going. If there's any leftover plot elements that have to be dealt with, I deal with them, and I make sure that I've settled the characters down. Then I've got to start setting up for the current set of problems. And that's where the swampy middle for me starts.
Yeah, everybody's you're in a series. Yes, you're done giving everybody a status update on the characters. What have they been doing between the last time we saw them and now?
And what are they doing that's been carried over? You've got to. I think of character arcs like a golf swing. The part you don't see is the backswing. You only see once the club strikes the ball and it starts down its course. But the backswing is important for figuring out why the characters are doing what they're doing. So when I'm starting to write the characters, they're already in motion doing something. And I've got to know what that is. I've got to start them on the course they're doing. But then the ball lands in the sand trap. That's how this works. Goes into the pond, an alligator comes after it, you name it. Things like that happen.
Have you ever gotten that point where you're in the swampy middle and you realize that there's another better way to do this, but it means cutting about 10 to 20,000 words and shortening the story significantly?
No, I've never realized that, but I have thrown away a chapter or two, said, I've went down the wrong path. I need to do something different here, and threw away a chapter or two. I'm usually pretty quick about figuring that out.
I had that moment not too long ago with Evolution before I started the back third, because now I'm out of the swampy middle and I'm ready to rock and roll and start killing people. FBI, I'm a fiction editor, a fiction writer, or the NSA. Who is it? Anyway,
it's all of them, everybody,
all of them. So I had to lay down all that stuff, all the stuff that you've got to do, and it's drudgery. It is drudgery. So I had a chance to set up all these little subplots, and I just kept thinking, no, I don't want to do these. I just do not, because I don't want to have to spend 50,000 words wrapping this story up. I'm just not interested in doing it. So I didn't. I dropped those subplots. I had them all drawn out in my head. I even started 2 of them and went, no, I don't actually want to do this because they'll turn the book into something it's not. And I don't want to go that way. But I could have. It was, if this were a different series, I might have done it, but I'm not doing it here.
Has the Swampy Middle ever gotten away from you to the point to where by the time you figured out that you were not going to finish that novel, you were already finishing that novel? For example, when I was writing the Terra Gambit, I had a different idea of what I was going to be doing. And that title of that damn book changed like 14, 15 times.
What was the original? War for Terra?
Raid on Terra, something like that.
Battle for Terra, I think.
Halfway through the book, I realized they're not making it to Terra. That's not happening. They're not going to make it in any kind of reasonable word count. My novels end up being 75,000 to 95,000 words. And I was already hitting near the top of that by the end of the book, and they were only halfway there.
Marines, they only spent, what, a whopping 30,000 words on Mirror before that book ended? So all that other shit was all set up for the Swampy Middle and what's coming, or, you know, what happens in Destruction.
Now, admittedly, for the Terra Gambit, I introduced a whole lot of other things happening, and I left them at an uncertain point. But that book, for me, was not one of my better experiences. I was not happy with leaving the main plot element unsatisfied.
I'm not even going to get started on this. Not even going to get started on this because everything I throw at the wall is going to come back and hit me in the face at this point. Because I have made all of these poor choices. What were in retrospect poor choices.
I was in the Swampy Middle of the book when I realized that I was hosed, that I was not going to be able to reach the conclusion that I thought I was going to get. And what's worse is that to reach any kind of conclusion at all was going to be 160,000 words.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
because I'd introduced so much complexity in the middle that had to be resolved before I could move on, that I was just basically stuck.
I think for pantsers, the Swampy Middle is the most dangerous part of the book. The most dangerous part of the book. And I have experience with this to a certain degree. You write up a synopsis, you write up a pitch, you sell the pitch, then you come back and you start working on the book, and we're like, this is not really the novel I sold. And that's a problem. So, yeah, pantsers, I think the Swampy Middle is what kills you. I think outliners may do a better job than we do in the Swampy Middle. But at the same time, the Swampy Middle is where you can have those little epiphanies. And those little epiphanies somehow are what carry you through to make a more interesting ending. And in some cases, make a more interesting beginning when you start adding those details back at the beginning when you figured out you wanted them in the middle. So that makes it interesting to me.
One of the things that I found out when writing the Terra Gambit is I ended up adding a bunch of stuff in the middle of the book that, while I couldn't use it at the conclusion, it is the sword of Damocles hanging over the head of the next book. It is all the things that really could go wrong for the characters still hanging there waiting to go off on them.
Yeah. Poor readers. You're so screwed.
Well, that's okay.
How dare you?
JR was messaging.
Which JR? You have to be more specific.
JR Handley was messaging me and saying that he'd only actually listened on Audible of books 1 through 6. And I said, oh, then he was comparing me to you, and we were talking about things. I said, I'm like the anti-Cooley. I not only don't kill people, I bring them back to life and put them back in my novels. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, how far have you read? Book 6. I said, oh, then you haven't read the part where I go ahead and bring back characters that are dead back into the novel. He's like, you're fucking pulling my leg.
No, he's not. because Terry is just different than I am. Yes.
A shocking number of people fail to complain about me doing that.
They didn't even pay attention. They don't even know. They don't even remember.
There's a reason I did that too. Not only the fact that I thought it would be cool, but because I hinted that it was a possibility earlier in the series. But if I decide to write an alternate set of books, I've got to have a lead in.
Oh, God. See, this is what happens in the Swampy Middle. These are the stupid decisions you can make in the Swampy Middle. Don't do it.
It's totally true. And I've made all of the nasty, horrible decisions in the middle of the Swampy Middle that now I have to live with.
I got asked why Garrus Inferno wasn't longer. People wanted more fires.
How long is it?
It's 108,000 words, I think.
Because your name isn't longer. Brandon Sanderson is the answer you should give.
Really, what it was like is I've said this before. I like compressed stories. I like to write stories that take place over a short amount of time, real time, if that's the right word to use, in character time, story time.
Story time.
Okay, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I like to write stories that take place within a week, that take place within 6 hours. I like that an entire book takes place during 6 hours. Yes, I've done that. I like to write these time compressed stories, and that means that there's only so many things that can happen in that time frame. Having them investigate 5 or 6 fires, additional fires, would have, I think, been boring as shit to everybody involved. So I made the book as long as I thought it needed to be, and it is what it is. But I made that call, and I made that call during the Swampy Middle, because I decided that I did not want to do this. I wanted to, because it's not suspenseful. It turns the thing into more of a police procedural, and I could have done that and made it another 50,000 words really easily, but I didn't want to write that. Just didn't want to write it.
I think the worst part of the Swampy Middle is when you realize, ooh, look at the shiny toy that I can go chase.
Oh,
and then you run off and chase that shiny toy, and then you say, now, where was that path I was on when I started into this dark forest?
Yep. Let's see. Evolution has gone through I've thrown away 2 beginnings, the entire book, thrown it away twice, started over, Trident 3 times. Destruction was twice. Garrus Inferno was 4 times, but that was over 5 years, so I give myself a break on that. And it's because when I got to the Swampy Middle, nothing made any goddamn sense.
I am so glad that I am not you. I would go crazy if I had to do that.
It's bad, and it's also good because some of those other things were practice, and there were things that I'll probably drag into another book, and they gave me ideas for other books. It just wasn't right for this book. The way I wanted to tell the story, it just wasn't right. It was going to make it way too complicated. I was just like, no, we're not writing this. So I've had to backtrack a couple times. Like with Evolution, when I had 9 points of view at the very beginning. Yeah, that was a bad mistake. And it took to the Swampy Middle to realize what a mistake that was going to be. So that's why I cut it down. So the Swampy Middle is that place where your battle plan meets the enemy for real, and they start shredding it apart because you get bored. So you have to find the tricks to make it so you don't get bored. Do you have tricks for that, Terry?
To a degree, I have tricks for it. If I'm getting bored and I can throw in a plot twist to change things around, I'll do it. But sometimes I find myself in that slog of stuff that I simply have to get there, that it's not going to be boring for the readers, but it's going to be boring for me because, like you said, I've plotted it out 7 scenes in advance.
Yeah, I already know what's going to happen.
Thankfully, I never go 7 scenes in advance, but if I know what's going to happen 3 scenes in advance, I'm already starting to get bored. It's totally true. As a pantser, if the way that I like being is when I'm writing a scene, I have a general idea of the things that's going to be in the next scene and pretty much nothing beyond that. None of the real detail beyond that. So if I start knowing 2 or 3 scenes that I've got to do these 3 scenes in a row, I'm already going, I'm bored. Are we there yet?
Let me go work on something else where I can go play with the shiny.
Exactly. That's how I get.
I get that way too, but what I have to remind myself of is that while I'm doing this, I'll find a better way to do it. But it is that situation where you just sit back and you're like, what the hell? Why do I have to do this if I already know everything? And that's one of the ways I get around that is I keep flipping between, like in Derelict, between points of view that are in different situations. So that makes it more interesting for me as the writer, because I have to figure out how the things tie together, maybe put it in suspense, or one thread is boring because it's drudgery, but the other thread I can have more fun with. And so I alternate. And that's why my chapters keep alternating like that. I think that's part of it, part of the reason anyway. So there are some tricks. I think it just depends on, what you're writing, but yeah, throw in a fight. It doesn't have to be a physical altercation. Throw in, if there's friction between some characters, man, heighten it up. Have a little fun with it.
Or throw in a setback for someone. If you find yourself being bored, go ahead and take the scene you're in. And they said, oh yeah, we can go ahead and they're going to do these, accomplish this thing. Go ahead and have a major setback of something they didn't see coming. And then that's going to add another 10,000 words to your damn novel. But there you are.
Captain, the Folgers crystals have run out. I can't make the coffee.
Captain, Starfleet only sent us these decaffeinated crystals.
But I have some Sanka in my bag.
Sanka still a thing? Holy moly. I think you just dated everybody.
Yeah. If it was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, it's dated. I mean, it's really dated.
That's Sean Penn all over.
God, Sean Penn, Judge Reinhold. Who else was in that?
I honestly don't remember. I just remember Sean Penn was in it. That's about it.
Yeah, he just surfer stoner. Oh my God. Spicoli. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy from Mr. Ed was in there too. Or not. My Favorite Martian.
Yeah, I think he was.
God, he was the teacher. He was the history teacher. Anyway, where were we again? You see?
Well, after Sanka, I pretty much forgot everything that we were talking about.
Yeah, because you're trying to repress the taste. Anyway, or the brand, or the marketing, or the branding, or any of it. The 80s were a dark time, people. The 80s were a very dark time for sanity. Yeah. So any more tips and tricks about the Swampy Middle? I mean, what more can we say about it? It's that point where
it's a mental thing.
Yeah, it's a mental thing.
You think that it's a physical thing? It's not. It's a mental thing. You get into the middle of the book and it's your own mind playing the games with you. You're going to have to figure out your own way of dealing with the Swampy Middle, because our advice is maybe something will work, maybe something won't work, but it's really going to be how you fool yourself into making the middle interesting and how you focus on what you need to do. For me, a big part of the problem with the Swampy Middle is that I can do anything I want. And that's typically how I screw myself, is I'll do just about anything that I want. And then there I am, stuck dealing with the consequences of it.
See, Terry doesn't need to wrangle his characters. His characters need to wrangle him.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
A little bit of a different animal there. I think I bet if you looked at the majority of NaNoWriMo folk who don't make it, don't win that, they get stuck in the Swampy Middle. The beginning's fine, they're moving along, and then they hit the wall.
The secret to getting over the wall isn't to jump harder, it's to lower the wall. Make it less complicated for yourself. Make it less of a problem. If you find yourself difficult to proceed, take a step back and say, really, when it boils down, what's wrong here? What am I not doing, or what am I doing that's making it hard for me to proceed? If I can catch myself with the right mental frame of mind, when things start becoming less fun is the point that I need to stop, and I know I do, and say, I've taken a wrong step. Where do I need to step back to get on to what I need to be on? If I'm unhappy doing something, that probably means that I've realized that I've taken a wrong turn. Sometimes I catch it in time. Sometimes I don't, and I have to work my way through. If you could figure out what your own tells are to say, I'm not having a good time here, and step back and look at what you're doing and figure out a good path forward for yourself, Swampy Middles will not nearly be as challenging as they are.
Depending on what you're writing, you can get away with a lot of different stuff to keep yourself having fun with it. If you have made the story too complex, it's not a failure. Go back and simplify and cut out those subplots. Maybe they're reusable somewhere else, or maybe you will find a place for them later in the book. Just forget about them. Put them aside, version that off, and go start, try and do, the rest of the book without it. If it's too complicated, drop it.
There was one particular book where I realized maybe halfway through the book, that I absolutely did not need to have one point of view character. And I had to go back through the book and yank out the scenes that had the person as the point of view, change them, do whatever I needed to do to balance it around, and just get rid of that point of view. It was my problem. And it took me half the book to realize it.
Yeah. And that's the trick, though. I think the more you run into these problems, you just need to pay attention and remember how you got past them last time.
It does become easier with time. Once you've finished 15 novels, the Swampy Middle isn't as intimidating as it once was. You'll still run into it. You'll still bog down, but you'll know the tips and tricks that have worked for you in the past to get through it.
And the other way to get around it is go write something else.
I'm not sure that stepping back to write something else would help me.
It may not help you. It's helped me a lot over time.
That's why you have like 17 in-progress works.
Dude, I have works in progress from 2002. I don't want to hear it. I mean, come on. I've been at this a long time too. It's just the stuff that I learned how to do was switching back and forth. I think I got that way in college because we were always doing 15 different things at once. So I was constantly switching back from stories to essays and everything else. I think I just got used to having to round robin priorities like that. But with books, yeah, if I'm stuck somewhere and I got an idea for something else, I'll go work on that. No writing is wasted writing. Isn't that what you tell?
No, it's absolutely not wasted writing. Everything is practice. It's not wasted. But I came into writing not as a writer, but as a reader. And I've always had a problem with setting down a book in the middle and going to something else. And it's carried over to my writing. I don't want to set down something that I'm in progress doing.
I can't even tell you how many books I'm in progress of reading right now.
I think I may have 2, maybe 3 books that I have set aside for some reason. And I think that that's probably an overstatement. I will either abandon a book that I don't like, or I will finish it. There's usually not a middle ground.
I just haven't had a lot of time to read, unfortunately.
Get some audiobooks, man. Go to the gym, work out.
Yeah, well, I'm walking the dog and listening to audiobooks. It's just,
That's all my reading nowadays is pretty much that.
Yeah. It kind of changes the paradigms a little bit. But stepping away and going and writing another 1,000 words on something else or switching to another scene
I'm a linear writer. I suck.
know, you are just ridiculously, Terry.
Get off my lawn.
I know it's awful. People say, how can you start writing a story at the first word and write all the way to the end? I haven't got the slightest idea, but I manage it.
Yeah. One day, maybe I will. Not anytime soon, though.
Just because it works for me doesn't mean that it's right for everybody else.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But those are the kind of coping mechanisms I've learned, and that doesn't always mean that it works, but those are things that I do to make that happen. And I'm going to get in that same situation when I go back to Trident. It's going to be the only way to fill up the Swampy Middle is going to have to be a lot of crazy. So, I mean, it's going to be like Destruction. The characters are never going to have a chance to breathe.
You've got no trouble with your damn characters and your damn storylines. If you find yourself slowing down, you can just throw in a tentacle and screams and blood and everything's good.
That's exactly right. I have them think about what horrible thing I did to them last time, discover something new, and at the end of the scene, introduce the next horror they have to face. That's what I do.
You better hope your characters never come to life and really give you what you deserve for doing to them.
I am their god. They can do nothing to me. Nothing.
You know, I think there's a story there somewhere.
I think there's a play there somewhere. 5 characters in search of an author. I'm sure. Charlie.
I mean, the story of a god that has the worshippers hunt it down and kill it.
Yeah,
there's got to be a story in there somewhere.
Oh, I absolutely guarantee there is. Stephen King's the one with the sparrows. Dark Half. Dark Half literally had a character come to life and hunt down the writer.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a pretty good book. If you're not familiar with that one, check it out. It's pretty creepy. Especially for writers. Kind of like Mercy or whatever it was called. Misery. There we go. Yeah, that's not a good day.
That wasn't creepy at all.
No, that wasn't creepy and horrifying and disturbing. Not at all. In no way. So let's see. In the past 2 months, we've covered... Oh, God. We've covered scenes. We have covered Heinlein's rules. We have covered characters and plots and short stories. That was last week. And truth to character. And now we've done the Swampy Middle. So do we do endings next week?
We can do endings next week.
Or do we do beginnings?
Well, why don't we just plan on doing one or the other?
Okay. All right, then.
All right, folks. If you can think of something that we haven't talked about with the Swampy Middle, you can send us an email at show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet Paul at Paul_E_Cooley. Better yet, find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society group on Facebook.
One would hope the Facebook group is on Facebook, Terry.
You would kind of think that, but I believe in the Department of Redundancy, so we're just going to keep rolling with that.
Well, you were in the military.
This is totally true. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. If you would like to support this podcast by becoming a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get extra content. Of course, we have to also thank the good folks at podhoster.com who host the audio episodes for your listening pleasure. Why are you giving me the eyebrow?
I'm not giving you the eyebrow. I saw something on my screen. That's why I gave the eyebrow.
Okay, good. And of course, if you are a patron, those that support us at the $10 level a month get their names read for every episode. So, Paul, who do we have supporting us at that level this time?
We have Sue, I'm too old for this shit, Bayman, J.D. Barker, Nathan Lebna Schmidt, partner Petty, Corley Davison, Kelson Deal, a skunk sat on a stump, the stump thunked, the skunk stunk. No problem.
Okay.
Isabel Cushy, Rick trying to figure out the voice of my aliens, Shaw.
Use lots of apostrophes and Ks.
Yes, there you go. Lots of Ks. Lots and lots of Ks. Basically, remove vowels. There you go.
There you go.
Lisa Slacks, Andy Manpants, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, John Kilgallen, Devin Lee, Drew Churn-Thy Butter Bernardi. If you weren't in the live show this weekend, you have no context for that comment. Chris Winder.
You don't want to know it.
You don't want to know. Chris Winder, Andre Conde Barres, DJ Chamberlain, and Terry Mixon touched my starship in its naughty place.
I think a starship can have more than one naughty place.
That line has no name. So that's the entire name. Now, I will say it does have J.R. Handley's avatar, but that doesn't necessarily prove anything. There it is, his email address. So, all right, those are the $10 patrons minus J.R. Handley.
Well, we're just going to refer to him from now on as Naughty Place.
Naughty Place? He's kind of a naughty place. J.R., do you have a naughty place? Take us out of here, Terry, before I get in trouble.
I think it's far too late for that.
No shit.
Folks, thanks for listening in, and we hope we were at least mildly entertaining and educational. We look forward to seeing you next week. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.